Hello, welcome back to a chapter a day. Today is Thursday and it is August what did I say, the 14th? 15th, I think. Okay, it's Thursday. All right, so we are finished with the book of Joshua. Yesterday I read the last chapter. So today, as my custom is, I'm going to do a review of those 24 chapters. So, starting at the beginning, Joshua has taken over Moses' position as leader of the tribes. And God has given him the same blessings that he gave Moses to be able to talk with him and then relate to the people. After he has taken over, the tribes that had gotten land before the Jordan spoke to him and again pledged their allegiance to stick with them all the way through till they crossed Jordan. Because remember, Moses had told Joshua, if they don't keep their promise to go with you all the way through to Jordan and fight the enemies, and then they can go back and get their land, don't let them go back and get the land. So that was the stipulation. And those tribes were the 2.5 tribes, the Gadites, the Reubenites, and half tribe of Manasseh. So they solemnly pledged to Joshua, and then Joshua prepared to send spies to Jericho now. So now they are heading into Jericho. So before they even cross the Jordan, Joshua sends them to spy out the land. And they encounter a prostitute there by the name of Rahab, who hid them and helped them to escape. And they promised to save she and her family during the siege. So as the men returned with the good news, they all prepared to go forward, and following God's command, the priests, the Levites, the people, and the priest was supposed to be carrying the Ark of the Covenant forward. So they were the ones going to be in front, and then everyone else would be behind them. Very much so like how it was done with the Red Sea and Moses. I find this is like a reiteration of how this is like their second Exodus, I would say. This is how God did it with Moses as the Red Sea experience, how he lifted the waters. So we will see is going to take place with the Jordan, except the Jordan was lifted up instead of parted. I'm not quite sure how it was exactly looking, but the flow stopped. However, the Jordan River flows, and everyone was able to pass through safely while the priest stood there. The priest had to remain there so that everyone can pass through safely. And once everyone was over safely, they camped out in that area. And Joshua, I would say, commanded that a person from each of the 12 tribes take a stone from the riverbed where the priest was standing, and this was supposed to be used as some sort of altar to God. Because remember, once you make an altar to God, you can't use any kind of tools on it. You had to just have it from straight, either one whole piece of stone or wood, or it had to be like stones that you took and piled up. So that's what they did. So that was going to be their remembrance. Okay, so now they are over the Jordan. The band of people, God now gives Joshua instructions. This is how you're going to be taking over this land of Jericho. Because I guess it was it sounds like all of these cities were all gated and walled, etc. And it must have been a massive city. So he told them what you have to do. Again, well, before they even get to go to Jericho, they were kind of camping out just before. And God told Joshua to have all the males circumcised. Remember, that is like their covenant between them and God. That's circumcision. And since the time in the wilderness, when they first left Egypt, there were a lot of newborns. And when Moses did the first circumcision right after they came out of Egypt, this set have not done it yet. So that's what they had to do. All the males had to have their foreskins cut. That's the circumcision, and that's what they had to do. Because it was like a new generation that was born while they were in the wilderness for that 40 years. Okay, they also had the manna stopped. They didn't have any more manna falling anymore, so now they were nearing into getting into the land of promise. They were going to be eating from the goods of that land. So to address the attack on Jericho, like I said, it must have been a massive city. All of these cities were all walled in, fenced in, however they were. So God told them, you march around one time for 6 days, and then 7 times on the 7th day, while blowing trumpets and shouting, and the wall did come down, just like God had said it would. They went in and they burned the city. They rescued Rahab and her family, and they only took what God said they should have, which would be materials or vessels they can use for in the sanctuary. But there was a problem with one of those people, Achan. Just one, okay? He took things that he should not have. And of course, God knows everything. Who are we trying to hide from? You know, the thing is, we are running away from people and forgetting, hey, God already knows, and you're going to have to pay for your wrongdoing. Okay? It's not so much about people. God knows everything we do, even the things we think we did in secret, even our thoughts. So, God told Joshua, well, they went to fight this city of Ai after they did Jericho, and they lost. The inhabitants of Ai, they smote them and killed some of them. So they wanted to know, hey, what's up with that? We just finished, conquering Jericho with God's help. We made an altar to God. What's up? Why didn't we win? So that's how God was able to let them in on the fact that, hey, somebody in your group did something off. So God told Joshua to do a process of elimination from tribe, go to each tribe, the tribes first, and then the families next, and then the individuals, and it came down to Achan. And unfortunately, he and his family were punished for his wrongdoing. So they stoned and burned them to appease that wrongdoing. Ooh, okay. So again, now they are not stopping. Remember, this is land that God promised. This is a whole host of 500,000 people marching through this wilderness to go to the land that God promised them. So people are hearing, the kings, the people of the inhabitants of these cities are hearing, oh my gosh, did you hear about what happened? Did you hear how God parted the Jordan? Did you hear about the Red Sea experience? Just like we talk today, we have, ours may get around faster because of social media, but they did the same thing. There's nothing new under the sun. People like to talk. So they heard about all the conquerings of this massive group of people just marching through, called the Israelites. And so, again, the people are recognizing God is with Joshua. With all these things that are taking place, Joshua is the one in command, giving them the commands through God. They're not talking to God, only Joshua. So God is able to show them that he is working through Joshua. So this time they go back and they fight the people of Ai, and they win the war. And God told them this time, only take cattle, nothing else. And that's what they did. And okay, now as they move on through Jericho, they got Jericho. The other inhabitants say, oh my gosh, these people are coming towards us. What are we going to do? So we had some kings trying to come together to fight off the enemies. And one group of people said, you know what, man, I don't even think we could fight them. Let's try and make peace with them. So instead of making peace, they decided to trick them and pretend that they came from a far off land because they had their clothes all tattered, and steal their bread and all that stuff. And before the Israelites consulted God, man, they may have just felt like, hey, we on a road, we can make our own decisions. Sometimes we tend to forget, hey, God first. So they went ahead and make agreement with these people that they wouldn't go to war with them. And then came to find out these people are not from any far off land. They are your neighbors right around here. So because of that, they already made that pledge and swore on God that they wouldn't harm the people, so they had to keep it. But instead, they made them pay tribute and they became their servants. So we have the kings coming together to fight all Israel, and with God's help, Joshua conquered every last one. The battle was his. God, he even asked God at one time to keep the sun from going down until they had won the battle, and that's exactly what God did for him. But in every battle that was fought from the tribes, it seemed like there was always one group of people that were not totally eradicated. From each of those tribes over that way, it seemed like they could not conquer at least one set of people. So they moved on. Land was distributed to the 9.5 tribes. Everybody got a portion, a number of cities. Caleb was given land also because Moses had promised him a certain land before he died, because of Caleb going out to spy the land previously, and because of that, he was given special land. So everyone who got land, all the other tribes were supposed to give land to the Levites, because remember, the Levites had no inheritance at all. So they gave them land. They also put aside a city that was supposed to be just for refuge, remember, for people who committed manslaughter, as we would say today, or just killed someone unawares, unintentionally. So after all the land is apportioned and things settled down, God gave them a time of peace. They didn't have to go fighting anybody anymore for a while. And now Joshua knows he's about to die. He's 110 years old, so he calls all the men of the leaders of the tribes together to talk to them about remembering. Let them remind the people of God's blessings. Remember, this is a new breed here too. Everyone here is not from the Egypt section. So he's reminding them, hey, y'all remember God's goodness. God brought us out of Egypt. The battles we fought were not just on us. It was God who allowed us to get through. We know how we will be punished if we go against God's will, if we commit idolatry, if we, go cohorting with the people, those enemies that you can't seem to fight off out of your land. Don't get mingle with them, because you're going to commit idolatry. And after that, he gave them that talk. Then he died, and they buried him. Also, they had brought out Joseph's bones from Egypt. All that time, they had Joseph's bones. Wow. I guess they were waiting to get back into the land of Canaan, because that's where Joseph was from. That's where his father and everyone else was buried. So that's where they buried Joseph's bones. And then Eleazar the priest, that was Aaron's son, he died also. So a lot of the first generation that came out of Egypt died. I don't know who else would be alive, but these younger ones coming up now, they would have to know. So maybe there are some of the other older ones who were born along the way, or maybe they were children when they left Egypt. Now they have to explain to these new babies that were just born and now growing up, who grew up in the wilderness, now what took place. It's always good to keep the word going. People need to know. We need to tell our children. I will always say this. Tell your children. Tell your children. Tell their children. It needs to keep passing on. We need to know of God's goodness in our lives. We need to know about God. We need to tell our children about God. Let them decide as they grow up, whether or not how they will follow God. But we need to tell them of God's working in our lives. We need to do that. And I really would hate to see that grandchildren and great-grandchildren never heard about God. That would be a sin, literally. We need to keep telling. So that's it. So we are finished with the book of Joshua. We are going to be starting a new book tomorrow called Judges. And I always try to think of a way to change up my setting my reading. I don't know. I try. So far, it's not been very successful, but I'll think of something. Maybe God will give me an idea. So, until then, thank you all for viewing and for listening. Remember, listen well because faith comes by hearing. So, until then, have a great rest of your day. Bye.